Now, the Kenya Bureau of Standards Managing Director Charles Ongwae and 9 other senior managers were yesterday arrested, and police have taken them to the Director of Public Criminal Investigations to record their statements. The KEBS officials are being grilled over the import of substandard fertilizer and the procurement of the KEBS ISM sticker. Meanwhile, members of the Joint Parliamentary Committee that is investigating the sugar scandal have expressed fears that the poisoned sugar could disappear from go-downs and warehouses if adequate security measures are not provided. Patrick Amimo with that story.
Kenya Bureau of Standards Managing Director Charles Ongwae and 9 other senior managers at KEBS were picked up from their offices and taken to the DCI headquarters for interrogation. The Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, says the officials need to explain another scandal on how fertilizer containing mercury was imported into the country. Ongwae appeared before the National Assembly's Committee on Trade and Industrialization Thursday and said sample tests showed the seized contraband sugar contains high level of copper, lead and aflatoxin.
Sugars that we tested, we did not find mercury. We have not said we did not find the other things.
The sample D1 chair failed in color, copper, polarization, total viable count, yeast and molds.
Members of the National Assembly's Joint Committees on Agriculture, Trade and Industrialization went through terms of reference as they moved to probe the contraband sweetener. They are expected to table a report of their findings to Parliament the first week of July. And members raised security concerns about the contraband sugar.
Identify these go-downs and see what it is go-downs. Otherwise, by Tuesday or Wednesday, you might find that all those go-downs are empty.
The fear that some of these products might disappear from the stores is real. Is real because if you look at the past events with Matiang'i, he never went to those big stores. Matiang'i went to some small wholesalers, and up to today, the big one has not been mentioned, and nobody is talking about it.
The Parliamentary Committee will on Monday meet the 4 Cabinet Secretaries, that is, Mwangi Kiunjuri, Agriculture, Henry Rotich, National Treasury, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, Interior, and Adan Mohammed, Trade and Industrialization, over the issue.
The importers have to tell us where they have been taking this sugar. If it is industrial sugar, they have to actually tell us which industries they have supplied. We have to look at that chain, because maybe this industrial sugar is the one that is now being diverted for human consumption.
In fact, the biggest person we want is AFA.
It's after that is what will happen.
Needed for them to take us through how they give these people licenses.
Yes.
If at all, it is agriculture to be fast.
We cannot be in the mercy of anybody who makes pronunciations. Let us have our own results from different institutions, make a comparison. Maybe maybe what the government chemists, the systems, are faulty.
You need to separate the CSS from the sagas, because those state agencies are very critical. They might hide under the CS not to give us the right information.
What people want to know now in this country is the sugar safe for human consumption?
Patrick Amimo, KTN News.
In other news, the Youth Affairs Principal Secretary Lilian Omolo and the National Youth Service Director General Richard Dubai and any other suspect are now free to process their bail after the Anti-Corruption Court in Nairobi declined an application by the Director of Public Prosecution to have them remain in police custody as the DCI scrutinizes their securities. The DPP had urged that part of the monies being used to secure bail were proceeds of graft. Here is our Brian Obuya.
In Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambe's ruling, measures put in place by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji, are to be lauded and appreciated. However,
to explicitly declare that the process is put on hold or suspended would be countermanding this express order of the High Court. It is tantamount to inviting the court to stomp its feet on red-hot charcoal, which invitation, with utmost humility, the DPP, the court must decline. It cannot suspend the implementation of the orders of the High Court.
Nordin's office had asked the court to suspend the vetting process of securities posted on grounds that some are suspect and are subject to and at the heart of investigations by the Assets Recovery Authority. In a heated court battle, the defense acknowledged that concerns raised by the DPP are legitimate, but it argues that complying with the same will be treading on a dangerous ground of contempt of court.
The DPP's office cannot suspend the process of verification at any stage. Once a security is brought before you, you will approve or disapprove, but they cannot suspend the process.
In an application filed on Thursday, Haji wanted Omola and Dubai to remain in prison because securities and funds they presented as bail are proceeds of the crime they are being charged with.
It is the duty of the court to ensure any security or surety offered is free from foreseeable risks arising out of any probable illegality, loss or prolonged expense should it become necessary to realize the security. However, it is important to underscore the fact that this can only apply to specific property under consideration and cannot therefore be generalized. A broad-based restriction cannot therefore apply, as vetting will apply to a specific property or surety in question at any given time.
Omolo and Dubai are among 46 suspects granted bond of up to 8 million to secure their release. The dozens of suspects are being held in connection with the theft of 468 million, which is barely 1% of some 9 billion high heist stolen from the National Youth Service. A high heist that has once again threatened the economy of the country 55 years after independence. The ruling was coming a day after Nordin Haji told a parliamentary committee that some of the accounts under investigation have had funds. But days before the court ruled on bail, 3 million Kenya shillings were withdrawn from that very account. The DPP, however, fell short of confirming laxity on their part. Nordin did not tell the committee why an account under investigation had not been frozen. Most of the suspects, including the Naivasha's now famous Ngirita family, have argued that the amount is too high given the fact that the accounts are frozen. Brian Obuya, KTN News.
It has now emerged that it is the 2013-2014 audited and approved budget that Treasury has been sharing to the Equalization Fund for the last 3 years. The Commission's chair, Dr. Jean Kirengai, says that it had partly 0.5%, which is an equivalent of 963 million that has been going to counties, which some stakeholders termed as a drop in the ocean, which clearly fails to address the issues of marginalization. However, in a shocking revelation, Makueni Senator Mtula Kilonzo Jr. says reports indicate that the Equalization Fund Board spent 569 million to hire choppers on 3 occasions, as Duncan Khaemba reports.
It was during the launch of the second policy and criteria for sharing revenue among marginalized areas and its 2017-2022 strategic plan that the Commission on Revenue Allocation revealed that perhaps the national government might have deliberately frustrated the Equalization Fund project. The fund was to help marginalized counties keep up with the rest.
The revenue of 2013-14, the 936 billion, is the last audited and approved, and that is what has been shared to the Equalization Fund over the last 3 years. So since 2016-17 to where we are currently, 2018-19, 0.5 that goes into the Equalization Fund is of the 936 billion.
What would be the correct figure in the kitty to date if our accounts were up to date? We recently did a budget of 3 trillion. Do 0.5%. You can see the weaknesses in our system. Our threat is ourselves.
But even as the Commission explained why there is need to pay attention to issues of equalization, the issue of misallocation and misuse of resources by the Equalization Fund Board also came to the fore.
The allocation for the administrative cost of that board was 569 million. It was spent in 3 occasions by hiring choppers to just fly around.
Sessional paper number 10 of 1965 must remain and will continue to remain the monster of marginalization in Kenya.
When we talk about marginalization, we thought it was supposed to be, we get it right. If you read the Constitution, it actually talks about marginalized areas. And you underline the marginalized areas. it doesn't talk about counties. It doesn't talk about wards. It doesn't talk about districts. It doesn't talk about specifics, but it says areas.
Starting point ought to have been unbundling and the costing of functions. That has not happened. Secondly, the old legal regime at the institutions that we used to have before the devolved system has not been reformed.
According to the Constitution, the government is supposed to set aside 0.5% of the budget to provide basic services, including water, roads, health facilities, and electricity to marginalized areas. Duncan Hemba, KTN News.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has urged all governors to work closely with the national government to ensure that his 4 legacy pillars, better known as the Big Four agenda, is achieved. He was speaking during the 6th Annual National and County Governments Coordination Summit meeting at State House, Nairobi. The event, which is a requirement in the Constitution, seeks to enhance closer ties between the 2 levels of government, even as governors criticized the government for failing to disperse 77 billion Kenyan shillings owed to them by Treasury for the financial year ending 30th June 2018.
Over the past 5 years, Kenyans from all corners of this great nation have experienced the benefits of improved access to government services, courtesy of devolution. In particular, healthcare provision has been expanding as rural economies flourish with greater access to human as well as financial resources. And these successes are a demonstration, I believe, of what we can achieve when we share a common vision of one Kenya or one people. It is our shared desire to ensure our people can afford to have good quality, can afford access to nutritious meals, decent settlement, access to affordable and quality health care, as well as to secure productive and gainful employment.
In other news, Deputy President William Ruto was yesterday in Kiambu County, where he denied claims that the Jubilee Party was divided. Ruto, however, said that there was a ploy by some of the leaders to divide the leadership of the party and said such individuals would fail in their mission. Ruto, who was accompanied by local leaders, said that the party would deliver on its pledges and prove their critics wrong when it comes to time.
Sisi watu ya Kiambu, ningetaka kukubaliana na Moses Kuria kuwa tuko nyuma yako, hata pengine hiyo kura amepeana, pengine inaweza kuwa itarudi, kwa sababu sisi tuko na imani na wewe.
Ni mtu mmoja tu ambaye hakumpatia vitisho na condition Uhuru Kenyatta, na ni William Samoei Arap Ruto. Unaweza kufuta mambo mengine yote Kenya hii, lakini huwezi kufuta historia.
Na wakati watu walikuwa wako na wasiwasi, wanashindwa hii safari yote kama tutatembea mpaka tupasue kama tumeshikana mikono.
I want to say for the record, Your Excellency, tutaendelea kutangatanga, tutaendelea kutembea nchi, so long as what we are doing, Your Excellency, is furtherance of the Jubilee agenda to transform Kenya and change our people's lives.
Serikali ya Kenya, chama ya Jubilee ni moja, na kiongozi moja, na manifesto moja, na agenda moja, sio mbili. So wale wanazurura katika vyombo vya habari na mitandao na fitina na porojo na ukora, tunawaambia washindwe.
Now, June is a month that Africa dedicates to honor her children. The continental celebrations of the Day of the African Child commemorates the struggles of African children in the wake of apartheid in South Africa. Here in Kenya, children's safety in school remains a concern. Besides, many children of school-going ages still miss out on learning, despite the free primary and free public day secondary education programs. Ray Polo now examines how child labor in parts of Nakuru County keeps tender hands engaged, but not in class, but on farms.
Local school gates open every weekday, expecting curious brains to jet in and walk out filled with knowledge. But that is hardly the case for hundreds of children here in Mount Narok area of Nakuru County. Instead of books to school, they adorn boots to work, exchanging shifts with adults on the roads and on farms. Free tractor trips save the young legs from long treks, their tardy feet pushing them to premature labor on potato, wheat, carrot and groundnut farms, some of them as young as 7 years old. Their scheme of work includes weeding, harvesting, cleaning, packaging, and even selling the farm produce. Their backs bear a share of family burden as their hands handle assignments fit to draw meals to the dinner table.
Inabidi sasa turudi nyumbani. Mama na yeye ameenda kazi mbali, sasa tuseme viazi, ameenda karara huko. Sasa inabidi hata sisi tushughulikie mtoto mdogo kako.
Their daily wages range between 10 and 300 Kenya shillings, that is, if it ever comes.
Tulienda kuchuna, tukachuna, tulikuwa na huyo. Tukachuna, ikafika zangu zikafika kilo 20, na hiyo zikafika kilo 50 hivi 45. Kufika hivyo, akakuja, akanimwagia njugu, akanifukuza shamba. Kabidi tukuje mguu.
And the tough lessons robbed them of precious school time.
Wakati si yuko darasa, wengine wanaendelea kusoma na kuna Kenya wanashika mimi sisiki. Nikienda shule nikiulizwa walisoma nini jana, sitajua na ni pesa tulifukuziwa.
School teachers in the area cite poor performance and indiscipline, especially among students who juggle between school and work.
Kuna wale ambao wakienda kuchuna wanaenda kabisa. Wanapata mabwana huko mshtuni, wanaenda kabisa.
Then there is the legal gap. Section 56 of Employment Act prohibits employing a child below 13 years in any form of undertaking. However, it allows employment of children from the ages of 13 to 16 years for light work. The gap between the compulsory education age and the minimum age for work also leaves children vulnerable to child labor and exploitation. Meanwhile, authorities in Nakuru County struggle to rescue minors from jobs, but resources limit their ability to keep them in school.
Tuki-involve maaskari, na askari wale hawana pahali ambapo wataweka watoto hao, hawana makao, na pia hawana chakula cha watoto hao, na ni wengi.
Kama tungekuwa na ile ofisi ya watoto, ingekuwa na bajeti ya kufanya ile kazi, ili wakati tunatafuta wazazi wao, tuweze kufanya bila kukimbia sana, ili tunafanya investigation ya kutosha.
It appears, though, that it will take more than a big budget to uproot learners from farms back to class. Ray Polo, KT News.
Just 2 days after the Global World Marked Refugee Day, the United Nations High Commission for Refugees has announced that more than 1.1 billion Kenyan shillings worth of infrastructure in form of schools and hospitals in Dadaab camp now lies in idle following the closure of 2 camps in Dadaab. The infrastructure includes several fully furnished hospitals and schools, which UNHCR hopes to hand over to the government, even as locals remain pessimistic that the facilities will indeed be used to benefit the community within and around the camp. Timothy Otieno reports.
Since the repatriation exercise was announced by the government 2 years ago, over 14,000 refugees, mostly from Somalia, are reported to have gone back home. Already 2 sectors within the expansive Dadaab camp have since been closed. Kambios sector shut down in March 2017, and E42 camp, whose last resident left on the 26th of May this year. And with the mass exodus, empty facilities such as these are left behind, with the United Nations High Commission for Refugees contemplating a handover ceremony for several schools and hospitals within the 2 closed camps.
We are engaged in constructive dialogue to see how soon we can organize the official handover ceremonies.
The UN agency is expected to hand over more than 10 education facilities, including schools in Kambio's sector, with a capacity of over 8,000 learners, and similar structures in E42 sector, with over 16,000 capacity for both primary and secondary school learners.
In Cambios, we had 3 primary schools, and we had 3 early childhood development centers. Those are the kindergarten, the early childhood centers. In E42, we had 10 early childhood development centers. We had 10 primary schools. We had, of these 10 primary schools, 6 were temporary structures and 4 permanent structures, including a story building classes.
The E42 hospital remains deserted. Just 6 months ago, medical staff here would be a busy lot. Today, the equipment lay idle, with the facility with a bed space of 100 left at the mercy of the Garissa County government.
There is emergency room, there is a lab, there is a 2 operation theater, there is adult wards, pediatric ward, and stabilization center. There was also in the hospital the area for outpatient consultations, specialist consultation, which we did non-communicable diseases and mental health.
The infrastructure in E42 is worth $7 million. 7 million. Infrastructure in Cambios is worth 4.5 million.
The United Nations High Commission for Refugees has announced a drop in the number of refugees at the Dadaab camp from 245,000 3 years ago to 231,000 now. And with plans to hand over the facilities to the government, it's not yet clearly outlined how the communities left behind will directly benefit, with past accusations by residents of the area citing favorism of refugees over the locals who have limited access to quality education and healthcare. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
Weekend Express is taking its first commercial break, but when we come back, we'll take a look at the local dailies. If you have the Standard with you, I hope you'll peruse through with us. And if not, I dare you to grab your copy. There's some quite interesting stories, especially after that arrest by DCI towards cab managers. We'll be taking a look at that, as well as some of the top stories, plus Obama's visit that is expected in Nairobi anytime soon. We'll be right back.